she and I together have arranged for a target date for the commencement of her new phase in April of 2027. So, and this is being recorded in July of 2025. So that's even thinking 2 years down the road. Life doesn't stop because we want to make a change. What matters is that we have that vision, that mission, and are taking the appropriate steps to get there.
Welcome back to our Happy Rainmaker series, where point one can make a difference. I'm really lucky to be joined by Scott Mason, the Myth Slayer. And we've just been talking about how you can help some of the unhappy lawyers who aren't unhappy because they're at the wrong firm. They're unhappy because working in a law firm really isn't for them.
Yeah.
But I've been thinking, I remember I borrowed some money to go to law school, and I know it's only gotten more expensive since the dark ages when I went. So I would imagine that sometimes finances may be an issue. They're still paying back loans, or they have children or a mortgage. Can you talk a little bit about ways to still make a change in your life, even if you have to be mindful of finances?
Absolutely. And just before I say anything else, I have to say I can so relate. During those early years when I was out of law school, paying those massive student loan payments, I call that the tuna and rice era.
Yeah.
Because that's what I was eating. I understand, for many, many years. And that's one of the biggest fears that attorneys have. They have to deal with these debt payments. And even if they don't, they may have other expenses, childcare expenses. There may be an elderly person in their house that they're caretaking. They may have mortgages, all of these things that they care about. So initially, one of the things that we want to do is look at what their financial objectives are, and not just financial objectives, but what realistically they need, want, have to have, and desire, and sort of pull those threads apart. Then, so many times people say to me, well, I have these loan payments, I have these expenses, I can't just quit my job at a law firm and start working as a nonprofit executive, or become an entrepreneur, or start speaking publicly and become a wealthy motivational speaker the next day. Absolutely right. Earlier, we spoke about the phase of the program in which we examine non-negotiables. Some of the non-negotiables that people have in order to make their life vision statement a realistic one include bills you have to pay and expenses that are foreseeable. And so we want to really analyze those. In some cases, there may be a financial advisor that gets involved. And in any event, whatever that is, we need to also move away from a particular challenge that lawyers have, which is examining their career from a purely linear perspective. As you know, Jennifer, as lawyers, we're taught to think about things in a highly organized fashion. These are the specific arguments that we would make. They are logically supported in XYZ way. When we submit a brief to a court, or when we write an advisory letter or fill out a contract, it all has to make sense from a linear perspective. But when it comes to things like our finances, creativity, nonlinear thinking, imagination are of huge value. There can be situations in which you take incremental steps to move into the direction that you want to. Maybe you begin with a side hustle to see whether you like this vision that you have for in the first place. Or maybe it's something where you understand that the infrastructure that you need to build whatever your side hustle or your next phase is going to be is going to take time. So you budget some money with the higher level of income that you have now to build that infrastructure, so that when you are ready to make that move, you are stepping into it as highly viable. In any event, when we plan, we always plan as to what can happen when. Nothing needs to be instant. Nothing needs to be linear. In fact, the more non-linear you're thinking about this is, the more likely you are going to make it happen, and happen successfully.
So it sounds like your program can be flexible enough to allow for some financial obligations people have. And sometimes it could be I need another year while my spouse finishes their medical residency and then gets a better job, or I need to relocate in order to do this and I have to find a house, or I need to take care of someone going through an illness, but it's a finite period of time, and sometimes they may need a little longer, but you are able to help them no matter what the time period is?
There is a client I'm working with right now based on her finances and the fact that she needs to make some career adjustments before she can fully move into what this next phase is. That she and I together have arranged for a target date for the commencement of her new phase in April of 2027. So, and this is being recorded in July of 2025. So that's even thinking 2 years down the road. Life doesn't stop because we want to make a change. What matters is that we have that vision, that mission, and are taking the appropriate steps to get there.
Thank you so much for all of the information. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.